Hey guys, welcome to, I guess, the second episode or second installment of Faith and Finance. And this is just sort of an impromptu, something that was on my mind. I just, for some reason, just thought of the saying or the mantra, it's not how much you make, it's how much you save. Or it's not how much you earn, it's how much you save. And I think there's multiple ways you could look at that. Just like anything else, it's sort of a easy thing that sounds good, that it's an easy thing to repeat without, exactly know, and it doesn't really take much thought to understand what it means. But, I don't know, I think it's easy for it to not be taken seriously or to be taken too seriously, right? It's up for interpretation, where people can live life that way, and I think it's fine to be extremely frugal and say, the number one thing I should do is cut costs. And, you have whatever your income is from your job, and, the main way you're going to build wealth or build your savings or build your investment is by not spending large portions of your income. And then over time, as your income increases, you continuously spend less and less percentage of your income, and you do that to build wealth or to stay ahead of the game. And I think that's okay. I think that's a good way to think in general. My unprofessional, unlicensed opinion is that if you go too far in either direction, where you go all the way to clipping coupons and reusing paper towels, and I'm sure maybe you guys are familiar with those, like, I don't know what the channel is, but it's like the hoarders and stuff like that, but the financial version of hoarders, where they take it to the extreme, where people are so conscious about saving money that that it negatively impacts their quality of life. And I understand some of those people have mental health disorders or are crazy. I understand that, and that and that, when most people try to save money, or be frugal or spend less than they earn, those people aren't, crazy, and they're not going to take it to that extreme. And then on the other end of the spectrum is people that just don't believe it at all. They don't take that approach to life. They take the approach that spend whatever you want to spend, or spend whatever you can spend. And, if you want to be more financially stable, or you want to be in a better financial position, you're not going to save yourself there. You're going to have to make yourself there. You're going to have to earn an income that provides the life that you want, and you're not going to save yourself the wealth. And I think it's a little bit of both. I think those things work hand in hand. I think, in one hand, you absolutely, doesn't matter how much you make, you must spend less than you earn, if you want to be in a good financial standing. On the long term, if you're constantly spending more money than you earn, and I think people can get into like some sort of a, cash flow argument with this, and investing in real estate, and, where, technically you're spending thousands and thousands of dollars, but, your cash flow is positive. I get that, but, that kind of goes over my head, and I'm not a real estate guy. So, but that notwithstanding, I'm talking about, most people that aren't dealing with special cases like that. We're only really going to move forward financially if we spend less than we earn. And it doesn't matter if you make $200,000 a year, or, $1 million a year, or $30,000 a year. It doesn't matter. If you're spending more than you make, you're probably going to struggle financially over the long term. So I think there's merit to that. And then also, if there is a lifestyle, or if there's a quality of life that you aspire to have, I do think it's not really realistic that you're going to save your money to get there. Does that make sense? I'm saying in the short term. I mean, long term, the best thing you could possibly do is, invest in an index fund, over the course of, as many years as you can possibly do it. And by the end of that, over time, it becomes more and more valuable, and the interest becomes more and more and more over time, to the point where, if you're investing for 40 years, those last couple years, that last decade is very valuable for you. But, you're creeping and crawling your way there for the first decade, the first 20 years. And obviously it's different for everybody. Some people over time put more and more and more money in each year. And as their income grows, they stay conservative with their income and just invest more and more and more. And that's fine. But yeah, I mean, that's the long game. I think most people, we want to play a long game. We want to plan for the long term, but we also want to improve in our short-term life. And, I guess I'm really just speaking for myself in that not only do I want to prepare myself to have long-term success, but I'd also like to enjoy some short-term success as well. And that's different for all of us, but I think that's just improvement, the financial improvement, more financial stability, more financial responsibility, more financial knowledge, There's, excuse me, there's steps you could take, as soon as today that, can make a big difference for your short-term financial stability and your long-term financial stability. And I think most things that are good for you short-term are probably good for you long-term. Now, they might not be as sustainable. Like if you're trying to get out of, credit card debt and you go on a super strict budget where you're eating, the whole Dave Ramsey, rice and beans. If you're just eating rice and beans every day for a couple of weeks to try to really, catch up or build an emergency fund, that's one thing. But, you start to get to Crazyville whenever you try to do that for months or years. So, but I think there are things that short term we can do and strive to do to increase our income, and speaking for myself, that's something I'm always trying to do. And whether that be, side hustles, or whether that be getting additional certifications or qualifications at your current job or in your current career, whether that be following your dream and starting your own business where you work for yourself or you build a business, it's essentially, the striving for more and better, and not, and this is sort of where the faith part comes in, and not striving for more for the wrong reasons. And that's hard. And that's been something I've battled with. I'm not going to lie. It's hard to talk about wanting more in an earthly sense, and then at the same time saying, yeah, but money is not my God. Well, you really don't want to live one way and then preach another way. And I know we all do that in some form or fashion, and we all do things we know that are wrong or not kind, or, I get that none of us are perfect. But I think the effort needs to be there for you to keep in mind as you're growing, and this is me giving advice to myself right now, to keep in mind that as you're growing, as we're growing together, as we're trying to get better in our pursuit of getting better, whatever that means, whether that means physically, whatever that means, becoming more mentally strong, financially strong, physically strong, making your family stronger, building better relationships with your family, treating your family better, being more responsible, being more responsible in your current job. There's so many ways to just get better here on earth for our earthly benefit, but also keep in mind that what comes first is God, and what comes first is your faith and your walk with God, and that you want to do all these things to better serve God. You want a stronger family so your family can, connect more through God. You want to build a stronger financial foundation so you can give more. And I'm not saying give necessarily more to the church or give necessarily more to religion, or, it's give whatever that means to you, whatever you care about, whoever you want to help, whoever you feel like a connection to or a calling to help. Because I feel like we all, some people's are definitely way stronger than others, where, they're just born with a calling to help someone or something specific or a cause that is close to them. But that's something that I want to focus on and try to not lose sight of, is that, as I self-improve and as I ask God, to bless me and bless us as we grow stronger here on this earth, for us to keep in mind that we're growing stronger so we can grow closer to Him and grow closer to each other and also give to each other, you know? I want to be stronger financially so I can give more, you know? And that's something I'm not going to lie, I haven't been extremely focused on in the past. You know, I've been selfish. I absolutely have been. I haven't given near as much as I, you know, looking at it right now, as I feel like I would like to have, you know? And so moving forward, that's something I want to keep in mind, that as I grow, I want my giving to grow, you know? I want to, you know, to grow in the right direction and not grow in the wrong direction, not grow away from God, grow towards God. And yeah, just went on a, you know, tangent. You know, I'm not being real specific on topics I talk about here. It's more just about it's about getting a conversation going and you know, sharing with you guys, and hopefully there's some of you that can relate to some of what I'm saying, or some of you that, you know, all I'm trying to do really is, I'm not going to convince anybody. I'm not going to convince anybody of anything. I understand that. I'm not going to say the magic words that you need to hear that's going to get you to start believing in something that you don't believe in, or start doing something that you don't want to do. What I'm trying to do is spark an interest, you know? I don't think I have the magic words to make you be like, oh, well, no one's ever put it like that, so, you know, now that he said it like that, I'm just going to start doing this. No, I don't think it works like that. I think what I want to do is just spark an interest. That's my goal, is to just spark a little interest in you, to go on your own path. And all of our paths look different, but spark that interest of, you know, self-improvement, of financial improvement, of improvement of your faith. Whatever that looks like to you, we all start at completely different places. And we all come from completely different places. So that's different for everybody. But you know what we can all do, no matter where we started, no matter if we started at the all the way on the left, all the way on the right, you know, I don't even want to say up and, you know, high and low, because, you know, no one's better than each other. But I guess what I mean to say is, no matter where you're from, no matter what, you know, what your family history is like, no matter how poor you started or how wealthy you started, we can all get better. Our faith can get better. Our faith can get stronger. Our financial responsibility can be taken more seriously and can be strengthened. And everything in between. Our family relationships, our relationships with our friends and strangers. You know, we can just get better. And so what I'm trying to do here is, by sort of explaining to you my journey and my thoughts, and having a quick conversation with you guys, my goal is really to just spark an interest. Because I'm not going to be able to tell you X, Y, Z, you know, do this, and this, and you'll be happy. Do this, and this, and you'll be confident in your faith. Do this, and this, and you'll be confident in your finances. Look, there's things that move you in the right direction that you can do. But at the end of the day, if you're not interested in doing those things, then you're not really going to be very consistent in it. And it's okay to not be interested. But my goal is to just spark you to be interested in bettering yourself, and in any way and in every way. So if I can do that for one person listening, you know, I feel like I would feel happy to know that, you know, that would make me very happy to know that. So thank you for listening. Make sure to comment if there's anything you liked. Comment, let me be more specific. Let's see. Comment your goal for 2026. How about that? Comment a goal for 2026. I think you should have multiple goals. Comment a goal that you have for 2026. Just give me one goal you have for 2026. I'm interested to know what you guys are working on, how you guys are getting better. No matter what the topic is, just comment a goal you have for 2026. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate your time, and have a blessed day.